Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya Yato Anvayaditaratascha Artheshu Abhigyaswarat Tene Brahmahridaya Adikavaye Muhyanti Yat Suraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Swena Sada Nirastakohakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Nigamakalpataror Galitam Phalam Shukamukad Amrita Drava Sanyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. We now enter the 17th chapter of the 10th Skandha of Srimad Bhagavatam. We saw the subduing of Kaliya Mardhanam in the last chapter, the serpent Kaliya. Now we continue. Parikshit asks a question as to why did Kaliya come all the way to Yamuna, because his original home is a place called Ramanaka, and he left that and he came to Yamuna, and he was in this pool in Yamuna as we saw. And so Parikshit asks why did he come there in the first place, and so Shuka Brahma Rishi gives the backstory of why it happened, because it is said that the divine eagle Garuda and the serpents always have an enmity between each other. And once Garuda's mother Vinata was affected by the mother of the serpents called Kadru, who is the mother of Kaliya, and therefore Garuda wanted to seek vengeance and he started killing all the serpents. And the serpents got very afraid that they will be extinct soon. So they went and appealed to Brahma, and Brahma gave a settlement that the serpents would collect offerings on every Amavasya. Amavasya is the no moon day, the dark night of the month. And all the offerings collected on that day will be offered to Garuda, and in return Garuda will not kill any more serpents. This was the arrangement they had. But Kaliya, who was a very powerful serpent, got very puffed up with his pride, and therefore he defied that arrangement and he wanted to take all the offerings for himself. And because he violated the agreement, Garuda became very angry, and therefore Garuda attacked him. And then Kaliya retaliated, and there was a big fight between Garuda and Kaliya, Garuda the eagle and Kaliya the serpent with 100 hoods. And Garuda, being the divine eagle, is mighty powerful, and therefore he was striking Kaliya hard. Kaliya, even though had poison and he was hurling it at Garuda, it had no effect on Garuda. And finally Kaliya was beaten so badly and he got extremely agitated, and then he ran away from there, and it is said he came and entered this pool in Yamuna or in Kalindi. And there it is said that in this particular pool in Kalindi in Yamuna, Garuda is not allowed to enter, and that is because there is a rishi called Saubhari. We saw this rishi, in fact, in the 9th Skandha. We saw how Saubhari, the rishi, was doing penance in Yamuna underwater, but he saw two fish mating, and because of that he had a desire for having sex, and therefore he went out and he sought the daughters of the emperor Mandatha by becoming a young man through his yogic powers, and then he married those daughters, and then he lived the conjugal life for some time, and then finally he got disgusted and then he left, and because of him the wives of Saubhari also got liberated. So that story we saw. So before that happened, Saubhari was meditating for a long time in Yamuna, and so once it is said that when Saubhari was in Yamuna, a fish was killed by Garuda, and because of that the fish surrounding that fish, it's a giant fish, and because of that giant fish being killed by Garuda, the other fish were all very afflicted, and therefore Saubhari out of compassion said, Garuda cannot enter this part of Yamuna anymore and kill any fish. And because of this particular decree by Saubhari that Garuda cannot enter that part of Yamuna, and Kaliya knew that, and therefore Kaliya went and sought refuge in that part of Yamuna. And after he sought refuge in that part of Yamuna, he started unleashing his usual character of putting poison out, and thereby he poisoned that pool, which we saw killed many. And then finally Krishna killed Kaliya, rather he subdued Kaliya, he ejected all the poison out of Kaliya, and then he made him to go back to his home and also gave him the guarantee that from now on you will be well behaved, and I will also ensure that Garuda will not hurt you in any way. So this is the backstory that Shuka Brahmarishi gives of why Kaliya came to Yamuna, and now why Kaliya can go back home safely, having been removed of all his poison. So now Krishna, after this pastime, comes out of Yamuna and he looks extremely ravishing. He is decorated with gems. He is wearing the most beautiful clothes and he is smiling and he is having the most wonderful, gracious look on his face. And looking at all that, the cowherds, it is said they rose up like censers would rise up when life comes back. So they were full of rapture, full of joy. They went and all hugged the Lord. And Yashoda and Rohini, the two mothers of Krishna and Balaram, they also went and they all were extremely pleased and they went and hugged. It is said, Yashoda, Rohini, Nando, Gopyo, Gopascha Kaurava, Krishnam Sametya Labdeha, Asan Labdha Manoratha. It is as if they realized all their desires when they saw Krishna back again. So this is how we see again and again Krishna enhancing the joy of the residents of Vrindavan by giving the feeling of losing him and then regaining him. Their joy is increased multifold, and so it is said that everyone was so happy. Balaram also hugged Krishna, knowing fully well he was the only one who was absolutely unaffected, because Balaram knows who Krishna is, and therefore he smiled and just hugged Krishna. It says beautifully, Ramaha Achyutam Alingya Jahasa Asya Anubhavavit. Anubhavavit, he knows his greatness, and so he simply hugged Alingya Achyutam. Achyuta is Krishna. Ramaha Achyutam Alingya. So he hugged Krishna with a smile, and all the beings there, all the cows, the bulls, the calves, the mountains, everything was in joy seeing Krishna back. All the Brahmanas, that is the priests and their wives, they were all happy. Nanda was so glad, he gave gifts to all the Brahmanas, all the priests, and everyone was so happy as if they had recovered a lost child. Yashoda was so happy. It is said, Yashoda api Mahabhaga Nashta Labdha Prajasati. It is as if she regained a child she had lost, and so she hugged him so dearly. So this is how Krishna enhances Yashoda's joy. He is Yashoda Nandana. So by the time it became so late in the night that they all decided to camp out by the banks of Kalindi, by the banks of Yamuna. Yamuna is also called Kalindi. So everyone, all the inhabitants of Vraja along with the cows, they all spent the night there, and they had a small campfire and they were all camping out by the river, and then they went to sleep. But as we already saw, it was summer. We saw that is why the summer heat was so oppressive that the cows and the cowherd boys went to the wrong side of Yamuna, drank the water, and thereby they had the poisonous water of Kaliya and they had died, and then Krishna revived them and then he subdued Kaliya. So it is still summer and the heat is very high, and therefore it is said that while they were asleep, the fire resulted in a conflagration. There was a major forest fire, and as soon as the forest fire was engulfing them, everybody woke up in the middle of the night, and instinctively they turned to Krishna and to Balaram. They said, you have to do something. They say, Krishna Krishna Mahabhaga, He Rama Amita Vikrama, Yesha Ghoratamo Vahnir, Tavakan Grasate Hinaha. So they say, O Krishna, O Rama, O Balarama, please do something. This forest fire is engulfing all of us. And instantly it is said that Krishna opens his mouth and he starts consuming the fire. So the most glorious sight of Krishna just taking all the five elements come from him: earth, water, fire, air, and space, and therefore everything goes back to him as well. And this is symbolized in this pastime by seeing fire going back. So the entire fire, Krishna opens his mouth and he drinks, as it were, the whole fire, and it all goes back unto him. Then the fire is extinguished. And in this way he again takes care of the cowherd boys and girls and men and women. So again, every time such an incident happens, They all see Krishna doing this most inexplicable and extraordinary activity, and yet the next moment they forget it and they treat him as their own beloved friend. So, this is the glory of this Vrindavan pastimes. So, in this way, Krishna protects them all. And with that, the 17th chapter ends. It's a short chapter. And then we go to the 18th chapter. And in the 18th chapter, the description of the pastimes of Krishna and Balaram continues in the beautiful woodlands of Vrindavan. So, Krishna and Balaram are enjoying the wonderful uh, grounds and the woods of Vrindavan. They are taking the cows around. As we already saw, now they are big enough that they can take all the big cows around. So, they are taking the cows for grazing, and they are enjoying in diverse ways in Vrija, and they are accompanied by all the cowherd boys, and they are all going about, and the summer is also becoming milder now. It is as if by some miracle spring has returned. It says here in Vrindavan, due to great miracle, summer, after summer rains come, but before that it is as if spring has returned, because all the cascades are wonderfully full and all the trees are blooming with flowers and everything looks like spring has returned. It says here, Sacha Vrindavana Gunair Vasanta Iva Lakshitaha. It looked like Vasanta. Vasanta means spring. Though it is summer, it looked like spring again. Yatra Aste Bhagavan Sakshad Ramena Saha Keshavaha. Where Krishna, who is Keshava, was sporting along with Rama, who is Balaram. So, in this way, there was a beautiful breeze blowing all the time over the streams and the ponds, and there was beautiful flowers like lotuses and water lilies in the green meadows. All the meadows were dressed with flowers beautifully, and the heat was completely mellow. Normally, the summer heat is scorching, but even now, Vrindavan summer is very scorching hot. But here it is said that the summer was so mild, and the summer sun was not at all felt by the denizens of the forest. The sun's rays did not suck up the moisture, and therefore the banks were all wet, and the water waves of the river was coming and crashing against the banks, and it was full of water. So, this beautiful description of Vrindavan, full of blossoms, with various birds chirping and various animals going around, peacocks dancing, is envisioned. So, this is the beautiful vision of Vrindavan when it was in this way 5000 years ago, when Krishna and Balaram were sporting in the woodlands of Vrindavan with nature in bounty and everything opulent. And in this way, accompanied by Balaram and surrounded by the wealth of cattle, Krishna entered the forest playing the flute. It says, Kridishyamanas Krishno Bhagavan Balasamyutaha Venum Veranayan Gopair Godhanair Samruto Avishat. Bala Samyutaha means along with Balaram, Krishna, he was playing the Venu. Venu is his divine flute, and by playing the divine flute, he entered the forest. Everything about Krishna is symbolic too. So the flute is a very beautiful symbolic instrument, because the flute is hollow, and only because it's hollow it produces beautiful music. And when there is any block in the flute, then there is no music comes out. So similarly, Krishna is the supreme being, and we are all like the flute that Krishna plays. And when we are hollow, that is when we are free of the sense of I and mine, when we are completely empty of I and mine, and then the music of the flute plays beautifully, we are a divine instrument. But the moment there is the sense of I and mine, that blocks the flute, and the music of the divine instrument is blocked, as it were. So that is the symbolism of the flute that Krishna carries, and that is why Krishna is called Murali Dhara. Murali means flute, also called Vamshi, Venu, so many names for just the flute of Krishna. So it is said that in this way, beautifully Krishna and Balaram were playing, and there was all these beautiful peacocks and flowers and various minerals, and surrounded by that, the cowherds were all playing with Balaram and Krishna, and they were dancing sometimes, they were wrestling sometimes, they were singing sometimes. It says, Rama Krishnadayo Gopa na nrityur yuyudur jaguhu. So they were dancing, they were wrestling, and they were singing. So this is very important how wholesome the plays of the boys are, and this is an example for everyone. When we have children, it is important that they are trained in all activities and not just one dimensionally in academics alone. So dancing, singing, wrestling. Wrestling is very nice activity for boys because it engages in contact sport, and that is a very healthy thing, as even now many psychologists say. And therefore, all of these activities were done by Krishna beautifully. People were playing flutes, playing horns, and applauding when others were performing something. And it is said that everybody was beautifully disguised in various ways. And sometimes, when somebody dances, everybody would sit and watch, sitting around, and they would praise. And sometimes Krishna would dance and everybody would applaud. Sometimes somebody else would dance and they would applaud. And in this way, the brothers were enjoying themselves, the two brothers. Sometimes they would clasp their hands together and spin around each other. And then they would engage in making two groups and playing tug of war. They would wrestle, as already said. They would do long jumps. So, just beautiful, simple sports. We can see how Krishna took the role of a simple cowherd village boy and showed the way of how to live a simple, beautiful life, enjoying in the most simple, natural way in nature. And in this way, Krishna will show at every stage how to live life wholesomely, with joy, with happiness, and with unconditional love, taking care of everyone, and thereby setting the way for everyone to follow. And therefore, Krishna is playing in this beautiful way. And they would play, and they would also go, when they are hungry, they would go to the trees and they would grab the fruits of the trees and they would play with the fruits. And then they would play games, simple games like shutting one's eyes and guessing who shut their eyes, and cutting jokes and leaping like frogs and all the rest. And all this play was going on in day after day beautifully. One day it is said that a demon, so this is what always happens in Krishna's pastimes, Kamsa's demons are on the prowl, and every once in a while a demon finds his or her way and they want to kill Krishna, but they just die as moth comes to flame. So now a demon called Pralamba has come, and he decides that I'll just go as a cowherd boy, because he has heard already that one went as a calf, Vatsasura, one came as a crane, Bakasura, one came as a python, Aghasura, and one came as a donkey, Dhenukasura. So all these forms did not cut any dice. So he says, I will simply go as a cowherd boy, and that way I'll be indistinguishable and I'll do something. So in this way, he goes as a cowherd boy, Pralamba. And of course, Krishna and Balaram know who has come, but they keep quiet, and this Pralamba joins their play. And then they decide that they will form two groups. Krishna says, we'll form two groups. Krishna is the master at organizing plays. So he says, we'll form two groups now, and each group will play with the other group, and whoever wins, the other group has to carry them, mounting them on the back. So this was the game they played, simple game. And Krishna was the head of one group, of course, and Balaram was the head of other group. So this Pralamba, he joined the group of Krishna because he thought, I can then carry Balaram, who's on the other side, and kill Balaram. So he thought, having heard all the stories that Krishna has killed all these demons, he thought, I'll not take a fight with Krishna, but I'll finish off Balaram, which is worthy enough because Balaram is also a son of Vasudeva, without recognizing the power of Balaram. So he takes the side of Krishna, and they lose the particular game, and therefore Krishna's team is meant to carry Balaram's team. So Krishna carries Sridama and Vrishabha and so on, whereas Pralamba carries Balaram. That's what he wanted. So he carries Balaram on his back and he starts running. And as he starts running, suddenly he starts picking up speed. And everybody wonders what's going on with this boy, with this cowherd boy. And suddenly this Pralamba reveals his true form. he expands, he becomes like a huge, this original form of a demon. He is becoming huge with his demoniac form, and behind him is Balaram in his normal form as a cowherd boy, and he is carrying him away, thinking that he will just take Balaram away and kill him first and then think about what to do with Krishna. But of course, Balaram being Balaram, whose his very name, Bala means strength, he is the embodiment of strength, and therefore Balaram takes his fist and just bangs it on the head of this one who is carrying him. And the moment he bangs him, it is said that just as Indra would strike with a thunderbolt, in a similar way, his head was banged with the strong fist of Balaram, and his head was smashed, and he was completely deprived of his consciousness when he was struck by Balaram. He started vomiting blood and he just fell down, uttering a loud cry like a mountain struck by a weapon or thunderbolt of Indra. So, in this way, he falls down with a thud, and Balaram very effortlessly gets off of him as he falls down, and he falls down dead. And as soon as he is gone, and Balaram just simply walks away, everybody is glorifying Balaram, saying, "Well done, well done." It says, "Drishtva pralambam nihatam balena balashalina gopasu vismita asan sadhu sadhu iti vadinah." So sadhu sadhu iti means they are all very happy seeing Balaram killing this Pralamba very effortlessly. So we have so far seen many times how Krishna has effortlessly killed all these demons. In this particular pastime, it is Balaram doing the honors and killing this demon Pralamba. So everybody utters benedictions on Balaram, and they are all praising him and applauding him. And Balaram comes walking away from there, and Krishna hugs him. And in this way, this pastime ends. And with this chapter also ends, the 18th chapter of the beautiful pastime of Balaram killing the demon Pralamba. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.